I think for a lot of people, what brings them into wanting to eat better, eating cleaner, is weight loss. And we know that if somebody gets into time restricted eating, they improve their metabolic health. Generally, if they have weight to lose, that's going to be a catalyst to help with that. But what other things within the food paradigm would you recommend to somebody if they're having trouble losing weight?
I mean, some people are advised doing a couple of weeks of calorie-restricted intermittent fasting to kickstart the process. And I don't think there's any empirical data on that. It's just rather anecdotal as a way to do it. That as long as it doesn't last too long, then you might be able to do that. Now, many of these studies have shown that even without calorie restriction, some people do lose weight. Some people don't, some people do. And I think the first thing to do is to just say, well, some people might be more susceptible, others not. And I think there's an individuality about that. But that's the first thing to do. The other thing is that time-restricted eating, just by making you think about not eating outside your windows, generally does reduce your energy intakes slightly. Because if you think about it, you're not going to grab that cookie or that bit of cheese just before you go to bed, because your brain says, okay, no, I need to have a decent fasting interval. You're not going to have that sugary drink, out of hours, if you know what I mean. So I think it's quite a good discipline that means that most people will be intaking less in a very gradual way that doesn't upset their body and stress it and doesn't cause any rebounds. So I think that's true. But I think how you eat is only one part of the equation. And I think we know that you want to do other things to improve your weight that will also help. So what you eat is still of the primary importance here. And for me, the number one thing is to eat for your gut microbiome and have that as the core of, say, well, if your gut microbes would like it, then generally it's good. And you should avoid as much as possible ultra-processed foods because they're bad for your gut microbiome. And we know that calorie for calorie, the fact of processing means it's going to make you hungrier, it's going to make you more tired, it's going to give you more sugar peaks, more inflammation, etc. And so, in a way, if you simply combined time-restricted eating with a policy to really reduce your eating of ultra-processed foods, most people will find they should be able to lose some weight gradually over that time. And I think it's important to not try and tell people to lose weight rapidly, because I think that is a diet is basically just setting us up for failure, because your body is designed to bring you back to that baseline and probably overswing. So people who are interested in weight loss, I think it's really realizing this is a gradual, sustainable change over years you need to do. And there isn't a quick fix that's going to work. It's all about training your body to eat at different times, getting your metabolism much more efficient. It's about realizing that you're eating foods that are good for your microbes, which are producing the chemicals to keep your metabolism optimum and your immune system optimum. And it's about avoiding nasty chemicals through the ultra-processed foods and that are triggering your brain to overeat and do other things. So it's a sort of relearning of our nutrition, really. And for me, it's about forgetting all that nonsense about calories and fats and even sugars. I think we've just gone too reductionist on this and need to take a much more holistic view of food. And because, you can talk all day about macronutrients and protein levels and whatever, but in the end of the day, you've got to replace something with something. And we have to eat something and drink something.
I love this idea of eating for the microbiome. We did get into this in great detail last time we talked. I'm sure we're going to get into it again, at least somewhat here. But one thing that comes to me as you're talking about that is carbohydrates. So if we're going to eat for the microbiome, we're going to want to eat a lot of different colored plants, a lot of different plants, which generally plant foods are higher in carbohydrates. That's a general statement. But when it comes to weight loss, one of the things typically people do when they're trying to lose weight is cut down on carbs. So interesting paradigm there where a lot of people are going to probably try and cut down on carbohydrates to lose weight, but that's where a lot of the fiber and polyphenols are to feed the microbiome. So I'm curious how you think about all that.
Yeah, well, it comes back to this idea of oversimplifying diets and regimes to sort things out. And I think, we've got to this stage where nutrition is a bit like a religion. Are you in you're in the low fat diet group, or you're in the low carb diet group? And, within fats, there are hugely healthy fats that we should be having masses of, and there's some very unhealthy fats we should be avoiding. Similarly, in carbs, there's ultra refined carbs that starchy, stodgy ones, which are just like eating sugar, and there's super healthy carbs that provide all the polyphenols and the fiber for our bodies. And, pretty dumb if we lump them all together and treat them as one. We've got to start being much more discriminatory, understanding much more about these, and realize that, it's not about 3 or 4 items. We're dealing with 30,000 different chemicals in the foods we eat every day. We're dealing with, 50,000 circulating metabolites in our blood and chemicals produced by our microbes. It's intensely complicated. So I think we need to think in much more holistic terms rather than trying to just say carbs versus fats. What do you do about it? And this is the trap that people fall into. Yes, keto diets, for example, for the people that can support them, do allow some people to lose weight quite rapidly. But if they maintain that and they're having really high fat levels of 70%, they really haven't got much room on their plate to keep their gut health adequate. And particularly if they have a sort of mental aversion to carbs and plants, then they're going to be in real trouble, because they'll be very soon have a very denuded diet that isn't going to be something that's going to sustain their long-term health. So that's the trade-off you've got to make. And that's, again, this danger of short-term dieting has a very different plan, I think, to long-term maintenance of health. And I think that's what I'm much more interested in, is trying to teach people that, for your gut health, doesn't matter if you want to, there's no particular limit for me about fats in your diet, as long as you can get 30 plants a week on your plate. Okay, by all means, put yogurts and meats on that. I don't mind. Lots of cheese, that's fine. But, the key is you still got to have that diversity, and it's not about thinking that broccoli is the same as rice. They're very different, and it doesn't have to be huge amounts of it. And realize that also nuts and seeds are something that can be high in fats, but also are typically plants that also have some of the beneficial properties. So I think it's all about sort of re-educating people in different ways to not think in quite sort of binary terms about food.
If you enjoyed that clip, press here for the full episode. I'll see you over there.
I think we've gone far too far the wrong way, and we need to get back to much more natural methods, certainly. That's my go-to oil, and I think it's going to be the best for you.